Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. All right, let's switch gears. I do want to talk about things from the Tennessee perspective because I don't think it's fair that we only talk about the negative of Kentucky without talking about the positive of Tennessee. And when I watch Tennessee, a couple things stand out. One, the obvious takeaway is the one that everybody had. Those were some grown A men going up against kids at Kentucky. And listen, I don't blame Calipari. I like the one and done model. I still think it works in this era. But you could tell, like, those Kentucky dudes, and by the way, it wasn't just the freshmen. Trey Mitchell did not play well for Kentucky. Onyenso, as I said, got bullied by Jonas Adu. That was boys versus men. The men won. The men shoved him around. Toby Awaka, Aaron Bradshaw, respectfully, be happy that Toby Awaka didn't get his hands on you because that might not have ended well. But anyway, let's talk about the Tennessee perspective because, one, that was the big takeaway. Boys versus men, they win 103-92. But really, you know what the big story is to me? This game proves to me that I do think Tennessee is a little bit underrated nationally. And I believe, and I'm going to get criticized for saying it, and people are going to clip off this video or audio and make fun of me 3-4 weeks from now. I believe Tennessee is a national title contender. I really, truly do. So let's go ahead and dive in. First off, I know anytime I say anything nice about Tennessee, I know what the two things people are going to say. Rick Barnes stinks in the tournament, and Tennessee's never made a Final Four. I know. You don't have to tell me that Tennessee has never made a Final Four. Everybody that loves college basketball knows that, okay? But at the same time, there are a couple things that are different about this team and worth noting, okay? One, first of all, just because Tennessee has not made a Final Four doesn't mean that they're incapable of doing it. First off, by the way, let's even crush the Rick Barnes doesn't win in March narrative. You understand 2 out of the last 4 tournaments that have been played, Tennessee was in the Sweet 16 playing to go to the Elite 8. Lost essentially at the buzzer in 2019. Sorry, Tennessee fans, don't mean to bring up salt in a wound. And then last year, without Sakai Ziegler, Hunk Duke, go to the Sweet 16, and we're a player or two away from beating Florida Atlantic without their point guard to go to the Elite 8. So stop with the Rick Barnes doesn't win in March. That's one. 2, just because something hasn't happened doesn't mean it's incapable. My buddy Josh Pate, who does great stuff on college football, CBS Sports, 24/7 Sports, he says this all the time. Just because something hasn't happened doesn't mean that it can't happen. And that is absolutely the case with Tennessee basketball. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that it can't. There's certain things that will never happen that can't happen, okay? I don't think Washington State is ever winning a national championship in football. I don't think Purdue is ever winning a national championship in football. Purdue basketball we'll discuss another time. But Tennessee basketball, with the resources, the coach, the conference, the team that they have this year, they're capable. Will they? I don't know, but can they? Absolutely. And what stands out to me about this team is different than all of the other Tennessee teams before it. One, you know the name Dalton Knecht. And the crazy part, Dalton Knecht, as I just said, did not play well against Kentucky. Finished with 16 points. Poor guy. What an awful night. I'd love to drop 16 in the SEC on the road, but that's a disappointing night for him. But first off, we saw on Saturday other guys can step up. Now, part of that was the Kentucky defense, but Dalton Knecht alone makes this team different. We've all watched Tennessee. There have been years they play rock fights. If they can't beat you 68-64, they cannot win. By the way, what was the best version of Tennessee? I would argue maybe 2 years ago when they won the SEC tournament, they had Kennedy Chandler. They could win high scoring, they could win low scoring. Didn't work out, but didn't mean they were incapable of doing it. And this team can do that. But once you get past even Dalton Knecht, they have all the other pieces, the things that we always talk about you need in March. Veteran guards. Sakai Ziegler's been around forever. Santiago Vescovi and Josiah Jordan-James have definitely been around forever. Veteran guard play. Veterans in general. And it's crazy about Tennessee too. I don't think people realize. I would argue, there's a few teams that really don't have a ton of weaknesses. UConn's won. I think Carolina's won. Tennessee really, outside of having that consistent second score, really doesn't have a ton of weaknesses, okay? Working on kind of a big project, college hoops project, hope to drop around March. But in doing so, I've been kind of just doing some deep dives on some of these teams, Kentucky, UConn, whoever, blah, 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 whatever. And I was looking at some numbers on Tennessee the other day. They basically do everything at an elite level other than score the basketball. And the scoring's way up. They're obviously a great defensive team. They rebound the ball really well. They defend the rim pretty well. They're a pretty good, not great three-point shooting team. So you look at what they do and what they don't do well. Like some teams have very glaring weaknesses. Kentucky can't get stops. I don't know. I can't think of other teams off the top of my head. Like whatever. Houston, is the offense good enough? Kansas, is their depth? Tennessee doesn't have that super huge, obvious weakness. And so to me, I just think this was an important game for them. They struggled kind of in that Maui early part of the season. Now, part of it was Purdue and Zach Edey. We know how that went. Lose at Carolina, but they've been pretty lights out since. Okay, they lost at Mississippi State. That's a tournament team. They lost at South Carolina. Okay, that's a tournament team. But does this team have the pieces to make a run? I think they do. And I think they showed it Saturday at Rupp Arena. By the way, shame on me. I don't know how I thought Kentucky was going to beat that Tennessee team on that night. I picked Tennessee to lose that game. Tennessee's really good. I know Alabama is atop the SEC standings. I don't know if we'll talk about them today, but I think Tennessee is probably the best team and best built team right now in the SEC.